Hiya folks, it's Kikoskia here, and welcome back to Let's Play Betrayal at Krondor. And when last we left off, we made it to Romney, though we haven't actually gone to the place we need to go to yet, because we had things to sell, and I wanted to sell things just in case the chapter ended when we went there. I don't know for sure that will happen, but I just have a hunch that it might. Now, there were a few places along the road that I wanted to check out before we decide to go to the Black Sheep Tavern. Now, there's this little side road here, also it's getting dark, and there is a building. Let's go check out that building. Is there anything here at all? There was something very strange about the house. James couldn't put his finger on it, but the house had a dreamlike feel. Or was it a nightmare? He barely remembered knocking on the door, but he was sure no one had answered. That is very strange. Is there anything back here? The answer is... yes! It's a Mortel lockbox, everyone! Gorath scanned the runes. They go up white, but come down yellow and white. Huh. Is this eggs? Oh, it totally is. It totally is. Ooh. Fetters of Rhyme. Oh, people have told me about this one. People have told me about this one. Although he could have wished for better circumstances under which to study it, Owen broke the scroll's wax seal and began to read. After an hour's labouring with the difficult language, he was able to commit the incantation to memory. While the words on the parchment etched indelible patterns in his mind, the scroll grew brittle, then crumbled slowly between his fingers like sun-dried leaves. Oh, that's a spell. Also, 100 sovereigns. And a rapier. Within the kingdom, the rapier was considered the weapon of experts and fools. Smaller bladed than classical broadswords, it demanded a great deal of skill and concentration to use, its primary strategy depending on its sharpened point rather than on its hacking edge. Ooh! I mean, that's not a lot of damage, but that thrust, plus 20. Also, blessing type number 3, 15%. I mean, that's really good. We're not going to use this thing, but that is really good. That was a great find. Also, when it comes to, let's see, when it comes to spells, Fetters of Rhyme. Oh, we got so many spells there. Also, we gained some more health and some more stamina by taking all this time. Worth doing. Absolutely worth doing. Now, there was a building on the road here. Hey, it's an inn! Oh, it's an inn! I'm so pleased. This means we can do some barding. Okay, you don't need to do any barding, but you two can do some barding. We can gain some lovely money. Even if we didn't get a lot of coin from selling the things we found along the way, we'll gain tons by doing this. The nameless hideaway. Except for a thin strip of floor that led between the door, the counter and the stairs, a grey cowl of dust coated the inn's fixtures. The patrons of the inn seemed similarly stagnant as they glanced up lazily from their mugs of ale and brandy. Owen played. His fingers slid easily over the lute's fingerboard as he moved between chords of This Kingdom Mine, the notes filling him up, as well as guiding him forward. Quietly, he began to sing the refrain. This kingdom mine, with my blood I've paid, to guard against all who oppose her. 42 sovereigns. Not wonderful. Let's have a chat with people. This is generic dialogue. That is generic dialogue. That's the barmaid, that's the inn, and that's it. So let's get some stuff. We can actually do with a couple of rations. 3, 3, and 3. So let's get 7 rations. Actually, let's have you haggle for rations. 3 and 8. Share with the party. Perfect. We'll go get some more later. Thank you. party's burning got better. You're getting really, really good with those instruments, guys. Soon you shall be the ultimate band. But not right now. 47% is not terrible. Okay, 100% is a lot better, but 47% not bad. Not bad at all. Right, before we go into Romney proper, we're going to save. And before we go into the Sheep's Tavern, we're actually going to, the Black Sheep rather, we're going to go and enter the building that says Enter. That seems like an important place to go. So let's go there first. The meeting hall was full. Assembled in the room were a dozen grizzled-looking men, all seated around a long table at the head of which sat a young man sporting a goatee. As they entered, a servant quickly pointed them to a bench off to the side, indicating their meeting of some import was underway. "I don't care what Mitchell Waylander may or may not be doing," the bearded man said sternly. "I am the Duke of Romney, and you will do as I request, else I will call up others from Bastira. Do you really wish to call King Liam's attention to this matter?" Unsettled by the vigour with which the young Duke made his point, the various guild leaders shifted in their seats. One, a tremendously overweight man whose clothes tested their seams, leaned forward, careful not to spark too much of a response. "It is entirely possible that the leader of the Riverpools was assassinated by the leader of one of the other guilds here. It's even possible he sits in this room with us. If you have someone in mind, Botho, why don't you simply come up with a name?" another man replied, leaning across the table to grab the obese guildmaster's shirt. "Talk, you overweight cat's innard! Enough!" Slamming down the tankard of ale which sat at his right hand, the Duke turned his piercing blue eyes on all who assembled. "I want peace on the Romney, and I wish it today. The fact that the Ironmongers Guild will not come to a negotiations table is irrelevant. If I hear another word of a possible uprising in Romney, I swear to you, I shall make each and every one of you pay for it." Having heard enough of the heated words in the chamber, James turned and whispered to his companions. "If Arutha were here, he'd have this lot at the gibbet for even thinking of open rebellion. The fact of the matter is that Prince Arutha is not here," the Duke replied tersely, evidently having overheard the whispering, "and I will not deal so cavalierly with those who are as much my family as my serfs." Snapping his fingers, he motioned to a pair of guards who stood mute behind him. "Sergeant Yearley, see to it that these gentlemen are let out, seeing as how they yearn to get to a part of the world where Prince Arutha rules." Ooh! Ooh, do I detect a bit of animosity there? Right, we've looked here, we've done that. Time for the tavern! Black Sheep's Tavern. Even as they threw the door open, James bit back the impulse to vomit. Kingdom soldiers lay scattered about the room, each lying in their own congealating pool of blood. Nowhere did there appear to be anyone untouched by murderous hands. Oh! Oh no! They even broke the loot! Chapter 3. The Spyglass and the Spider. The coppery smell of burning flesh filled the air. Embers leapt from the funeral pyre into the growing dusk, joined the winking points of light that would later become a blaze of crystalline stars. Around the flames, villagers gathered in dark clots, their faces overwritten with blank, unreadable expressions. Like moths to a candle, they drifted near and mourned and thought and sniffed. They had come to watch the flames feed. Gorath's fathomless green eyes nictitated in the firelight as he turned and gazed at Owen, who flinched uncomfortably at his side. "There can be no uneasier sleep than a warrior murdered in his cups," Gorath said, his voice only slightly louder than the spitting hiss of scorched bone. "They nipped at the heels of the nighthawks, be certain of that." "So you think we're getting closer?" Owen asked. Gorath began to speak, but his words congealed on his lips as his eyes locked with the burning gaze of Senior James. "I have had it with your mysterious half-answers, Mordell. Now, for the sake of your continued good health, I want to hear some explanations fast why you were here in Romney a 6 months before you made your appearance at the Inklindale Pass." "The only explanation, Senior, is that you are mistaken. I have never been south of the Inklindale." While we carried the dead from the Black Sheep Tavern, a tavern boy informed me that a man answering to your description called on 3 unwholesomes dressed in black, all of whom wore the trademark silver rings of the nighthawks. We heard them refer to the Mordhell as Gorath. It seems that these Mordhell paid a sizable sum of money to those nighthawks before departing, enough perhaps to arrange the death of a company of the king's soldiers. He may well have paid a king's death, but I know nothing of it. I realize it may impress little upon you, but Gorath is a passing common name in the Northlands, and oft has not your kingdom fellow folk have mistaken me for an elf. The barkeeper was likely deceived by enemies of mine. If I had cause to mislead you or your prince, I would have found a far less convoluted means of confusing the royal sanity. Look elsewhere for your enemies, James. While we may not be friends, I mean you no harm. I shall look where I wish until you are no longer my responsibility. We may not be able to strike at the Nighthawk stronghold, but if we can locate it, we may still be able to get inside and find the information Prince Arutha seeks. The Nighthawks will shun Romney for a time. However bold they may be in their murderous nights, they flee when daylight breaks. No one walks without leaving footprints, and these men are no different. However skilled they may be at assassination, they have never been any good at covering their tracks. Let me see those things you found in a tavern. Here they are. Good. Those are our footprints. Of all the items we found on the dead company, both those items seem conspicuously out of place, and may be related in some way to our elusive murderers. We begin our hunt for the Nighthawks with a spider and a spyglass. Chapter 3. Solve the mystery. Something changed here? They were shown to a room. Seated across-legged in a large wooden chair, Duke Romney was staring at a large lumpy form which was heaped on top of the meeting table, his youngish features obviously clouded by some issue of great concern. "What's under the sheet?" James asked. "Botho Chandler," the Duke replied grimly. "They found him in the alleyway and have dropped him off here until the undertakers can come for him." "Murdered?" the Duke sighed. "Fortunately, it's no great mystery. He was fighting with a leader of the Millers Guild and got cornered by 3 mercenaries. We have them all in custody. Things have gotten so bad here that we're regularly building a bonfire to burn the bodies from this idiot private war between the guilds." "Any way we can be of assistance?" James asked, taking a glance beneath the sheet at the obese corpse. "We may be in the area for some time." Drumming his fingers on the table, the Duke stared intently at them. "Actually, you may be of service to me," he said after a thoughtful moment. "If I can convince Arlie Steelsoul to come to into negotiations with the rest of the guilds, it's possible I can break this deadlock between them. My father always said that the guilds will follow Mitchell Waylander and Arlie Steelsoul whichever way they go, but unfortunately Mitchell is too intertwined in the origins of his problem for me to use him effectively." "Where do we fit into this?" James asked. "You're neutral," he replied, gaining his feet. "You were born outside of Romney, and you have no connections to the guilds. I am right about that, aren't I?" Quickly an anxious look flickered in his eyes, but quickly vanished as he noticed that James was shaking his head. "Excellent. My point being as the Duke. The guilds might view a private meeting between myself and Arlie an unfair negotiation. They have to believe that he is coming to the negotiating table of his own free will, and believe me, they will be watching my movements for a while. So you want us to find this Arlie Steelsoul fellow and convince him to come and negotiate with the rest of the guild, is that it?" James asked. "Just so," the Duke replied. "You will find that he has a small house to the west and south of here. I would advise you, though, he is a paranoid man. He keeps himself well guarded, and there may be some danger involved. I will reward you for your efforts, of course." "That's all right," James said with a smile, heading towards the door. "We're used to danger. So we have a quest. A quest entirely unrelated to the whole spyglass malark. Also, is it me, or did this suddenly become a lot more valuable? Whoa! All this stuff suddenly became a lot more valuable. This store has suddenly become a much better... 540 sovereigns. That's a good weapon, but you know what? I'm curious, how much would this... How much would... If I give you that, and I put this here, No, you can't. Your inventory is quite full. Like, that is ridiculously expensive. I mean, I'm selling it, but oh my, that's ridiculously expensive. So, this place was terrible up until this chapter, when it has become brilliant. Also, this sword is suddenly very Oh, everything here has become astronomically expensive. This is now 2,700. No wonder. Everything is much more expensive, so of course we can sell things for a lot more money. So we're not going to be buying anything here. Oh no, we are buying nothing here. But we will most certainly sell things here. That is amazing. Whoa. We're going to have to do some backtracking, I think. The game is sort of saying that we should be doing some backtracking, but generally, I actually think I might want to backtrack a long way at some point. I want to backtrack all the way to Sarth, and the reason I want to backtrack to Sarth is because I want to see what spells they have. I want to see what spells they have that I might want to buy. Now, I know I'm probably going to find all the spells eventually anyway, but I'm really curious as to which ones I might want to have now. I have 6,000 sovereigns. Also, I am very glad that I did not sell this before the chapter ended, because we just earned a small fortune. Also, can we now go into the tavern and do some barding? You did not actually gain any haggling. Huh. Probably because you didn't do most of the haggling. Someone mentioned that that is something you do have to do. You have to have the person do the haggling. Also, I'm going to double check that you actually have barding selected. You do. Also, we have this this item here and this item here. A relatively simple device. The spyglass was a cylinder of brass fitted in with a large glass lens on one end and another, smaller lens on the opposite end. While spyglasses were used to spot distant objects, James suspected this one had been rendered useless by the cracks in the larger lens. Oh well. Silver spider. With the exception of its carnelian-tinged fangs, the miniature spider glinted a deadly silver hue. On its underbelly, a long, shallow groove bisected its length and passed between its fangs, a groove through which a sword blade or an arrow could easily be passed. You know, I'm going to have you hold on to these, Owen. This means you can't hold anything right now, but it also means that, they're not clogging up anyone else's inventory. Right, let's go into the tavern. Is it actually usable now? It is! Within the accommodations were humble, several splintering, such and such. There is a lute here. Owen played. His fingers slid easily over the lute's fingerboard as he moved between chords of this kingdom mine, the notes filling him up, as well as guiding him forward. Quietly, he began to sing the refrain. This kingdom mine, with my blood I've paid, to guard against all who oppose her. 104. The gambler shook his head. I'm afraid I've come to the end of my funds. We have not got much luck with that. Table's cleaned for them. Okay, we've heard that one before. There's you. James motioned to the figure across the room. The boy walked over to join them. He stood before them, eyes downcast. Are you going to take me away? Why should we want to do that? Because when I broke things, Master always told me that someone would come and take me away someplace bad and someplace dark, where they would never feed me, and I'd never see the light of day. I knew when all those people got killed in here that someone would come for me and take me to the bad place. You don't have anything to be afraid of, Jason. You didn't kill those men. It's not your fault. Master says anybody that stays under our roof is our responsibility, and I was here when they were killed. That means it was my fault. Then you saw the murders? No. But they come in and told me to leave or they'd hurt me real bad. They didn't tell me what they were going to do. What did the men who told you to leave look like? They were big, and they had birds on their chest, like eagles, and they smelled funny, like sometimes the sailors from Kesh smell like flowers. Hawks on their chests. At least that confirms the nighthawks' involvement. Do you know anything about a spider made of silver or a brass spyglass that one of the men that were killed might have carried? It's very important. Think hard. I don't know anything about the spider, but I remember that one of the king's men had a brass tube with little pieces of glass in the ends of it, and I could see things that were far away with it. He said that he and one of the other men had brought it back from Sildon. Sildon? Did he say where in Sildon he got it? No, just in Sildon. Can you think of anything else? Did anyone else come into the Black Sheep before the murderers? A carrying man brought in some wine from the upside-down keg for the soldiers. Told me it was sent special, but beside that I can't think of anything. Thanks, Jason. We may be back later to ask you more questions, so don't go anywhere. That's some info. Also, nothing interesting there. Okay, we've done all we can here. Barding abilities improved. That's always good news. Right. Is that... That's a person. That's a person right there. And so, when we come back, folks, I found an encounter that was trying to be sneaky in the dark. Well, bad news for you, I spotted you. And while we should probably be heading forward, we've actually been told by the plot that we should head backwards to go and find this person for the Duke. And we may find some clues in Sildon. And then we should probably go to all kinds of other places. We really should. Eventually all the way back to Sarth in the future, but that's not right now. We should definitely make some tracks backwards, at least for the time being. And so, I'll catch you next time, folks, and I'll see you then. Later.